Good morning, fifth grade. We are on lesson 3 for science, so you can have your books open to um, page 272 to 275. Make sure that you've got these notes out and your book as we read through. Today, we're going to be talking about weathering, and there's going to be two different types of weathering. What happens if you squeeze a piece of gravel in your hand as hard as you can? No matter how hard you squeeze your hand, the rock stays the same. But forces in nature change the rock all the time. Weathering is a slow, destructive process that breaks rocks into smaller pieces called sediments. So we're going to write exactly that. Weathering is a slow, destructive process that breaks rocks into smaller pieces called sediments. And just to help you out, there's going to be two types of weathering we're going to go through today. Mechanical weathering is the breaking of rock into smaller pieces by forces. Some forces are due to gravity, ice, or plant roots. So we can just write that out. So breaking of rock by force. And then if I were you, I'd write down the examples that's given: gravity, ice, and plant roots. Sorry for making you write that twice. We are going to write it down here, and that's fine. Just so you've got it down. Now you really know. So the forces of mechanical weathering are gravity, ice, or plant roots. And that's not necessarily the only ones, but it is the majority of them. Chemical weathering is the changing of materials in a rock by chemical processes. So chemical can kind of help you out there. When water freezes, it expands. That is, it becomes larger. When water freezes in the cracks of rocks, it expands and forces the rocks to split apart. This kind of mechanical weathering is called ice wedging. So ice wedging is when water freezes and expands, and then when it does that, it forces the rock apart. So that's ice wedging, and this probably happens in places that have ice, or have water where it changes from ice to water. So places, just think of in Wisconsin where we've got summer, but then come winter we had water, but then it can begin to freeze, and that's where ice wedging can happen. Changes in pressure can also cause rocks to break. When wind or water remove large amounts of dirt from the mountainside, the rocks in the mountain are under less pressure. The rocks then slowly expand at different rates. Then cracks can form in the rock. Water can move into the cracks and freeze. As the cracks become larger, gravity pulls pieces of rocks down the slope. Mechanical weathering of different rocks happens at different rates. The rates depend on the type of materials in the rock and the conditions around it. And that's going to be really important that depending on the rock, it happens at different rates or different speeds. The rate depends on the type of materials. Type of materials and the conditions around it. I'm going to let you just look at the pictures and their caption on this next page, and we're going to go into chemical weathering. So rocks are also broken down by the actions of chemicals during chemical weathering. Raindrops absorb carbon dioxide from the air. This makes a chemical called carbonic acidic. This chemical can dissolve some types of rock. When the rain soaks down to the rock, the chemical in the water dissolves parts of the rocks. Caves can form. And that's going to be really important so chemical weathering can cause caves to form because this can be helpful or harmful. In other kinds of chemical weathering, fungi and other organisms give off chemicals that change some kinds of rocks. Some rocks are affected by chemical weathering faster than others. Limestone weathers more quickly than granite. What kind of climates would you think can cause chemical weathering to happen fastest? Since water is a large part of chemical weathering, areas with much rain will have more chemical weathering than deserts. So areas with rain will have more chemical weathering than deserts. Then our last section we're going to look at is soil. Mechanical weathering and chemical weathering help make soil, and that's just our first note on this page. And then you can flip it over. Soil is usually made of sediments. They are very small bits from weathered rocks. Soil also contains decayed material from organisms, gases from air, and water. And we're going to write all of those things down. So soil is made of sediments, then we also have decayed material, gases from the air, and then also water. There are many kinds of soil. The color of soil might be red, brown, black, or gray. The color depends on what kind of materials are in the soil. The size of the sediments in the soil determines the soil's texture and its ability to hold water. Soils with very small sediments, such as clay, feel smooth and do not let water pass through easily. Sand particles are larger than clay particles. Sandy soils are gritty and let water pass easily. Most plants grow best in soils with large amounts of decayed matter. So there are going to be many different kinds of soil. But in each soil, there's going to be 3 different parts to it. So we've got topsoil, and you see topsoil, it's the topsoil of the layer, or top layer. It also has a large amount of decayed material. So most of the time, if you're in the ground or in the soil, you're just seeing the topsoil. The next layer then is the subsoil. So that's the second layer. And it says it is often a different color than topsoil, and it contains many minerals but less decayed matter. So it's a different color than topsoil. Has more minerals. And then we've got our bottom one, which is bedrock. So bedrock is nearly solid rock. And then also with bedrock, so it lies under the surface. It is deeper in some places than others. Water may seep into cracks in bedrock and slowly weather into smaller rocks. Eventually, bedrock may become sediments in soil. So it's nearly solid rock. It then may crack and become sediments in soil. This picture is a little bit dark, but you can see like the more solid ground or solid rock down here, and then up here is where the rock gets smaller and smaller until you hit that soft soil. All right, what you can do is you can have out your worksheet. You can cross off number 9. Just put 1 X through it. And then these ones should be fairly easy. Just look at which one you're going to use A twice and B twice. Look at which one is in which. They are both. All of these would be actually in your notes. And then as far as the true and false goes, that's again going to be all in your notes. So just double check all your answers that they are correct. And you should be all set then for lesson 3. Again, you can cross out number 9. If you'd like to try number 9, if you get that correct, I will give you 2 extra points on your worksheet. So go ahead and try that one if you would like. If not, cross it out. And then you are all set for the other 8 questions.